Amazing. So as Will mentioned, if you're signed up for a roundtable with these panelists, please make sure to make your way to the right side of the room. But for everyone else, we were just hearing about how treating your users as community is something which is really powerful. So using that as a segue, we will actually be talking to a bunch of really cool content creators now. Our next panel is on building a growth career with high growth creative products. And for this panel, I want to invite Sandy, who is the Director of Growth at Descript, Junyan, who is the Head of SMB Growth at TikTok, and this panel will be moderated by Korik, who is the well-known author and actually Wall Street Journal best-selling author of The Unspoken Rules.
Hello, everyone. Thanks so much for taking the time to be here today and for sticking around for this action-packed panel with JY, Junyan, and Sandy. We're gonna, as you all know by now, we have folks on the live stream as well as folks here. For those who are on live stream, I'm gonna be keeping one eye on the Google Doc where we'll be sourcing questions. And then for all of you, you all get the equivalent of TSA pre-check in asking questions to our panelists. So if you have a question, go ahead, raise your hand, and I'll look around and keep my eyes peeled for whoever has a question. And that will also be my cue to stop asking my questions. So again, we want to prioritize your questions. Please raise your hand if you have any. But without further ado, want to first introduce JY, Head of SMB Growth from TikTok, and Sandy Diao, who leads growth at Descript. First question for starting with Sandy and then to JY. Sandy, you work on growth at Descript. Could you explain to me, as if I were maybe a 12-year-old, what is Descript and what is this growth thing that you do?
Ooh, that's hard. I've only had to explain things as a 12-year-old in interviews. So firstly, I'll start with what is Descript. Descript is an audio and video editing tool made as easy as a Word document. So the idea is you upload audio or video footage and it transcribes so that you can edit audio and video like the way you would edit text. So in a nutshell, that's what the product is. Growth, in simple terms, is figuring out how to grow things. And at companies, it's figuring out how to grow users and revenue. So that's what I do on a day-to-day basis.
Hello, everyone. So what we do, I think, if I think about the growth for TikTok, we are really just a funnel. So the top of funnel, we have more than 1 billion users. And the next step for that, for business side, is how many people we have as active business without spend. Whether you are, I think people may heard about it, you are a shop, which is our very fast growing segments, or like you are just like actively account posting business content on TikTok. So that's the second step. Then advertising or starting to advertising and retain advertiser. So that's really the funnel we see. And my job at Growth is really making that funnel stronger and more people passing through each steps and retaining there.
Very cool. And we just met a few minutes ago, and during our conversation, it turns out that the two of you go way back. So when it comes to the word career, you have some career advice perhaps for all of us on how to build relationships, nurture relationships, and end up in a panel like this together. What's the origin story of how the two of you met?
I'd be happy to kick that one off. So actually, JY was across the interview room with me when I was working at Meta several years ago, and she was on the interview panel and apparently gave me the yes so that I could join the Meta team on the SMB growth side.
Yeah, I know about this great conference through Sandy, and thank you for introducing me here. And as Sandy talked about, right, like we met at Meta, had the pleasure to interview Sandy. We all are very impressed with her and actually needed to do several rounds of selling to get her on board.
I had a chance also, in addition to meeting the two of you and chatting with you, go on your LinkedIn profiles, and boy, it's extensive and lots of impressive logos, from Discover to Facebook to now at TikTok. Sandy, for you, Meta for sure, Indiegogo, both of you have worked there, I believe, or actually you've worked there and now you're at Descript. Now you're both leading growth at your respective companies. You both started off studying business in undergrad. How did you get from business undergrad to where you are today? What were those career moves that you made you so successful?
That's a good question. I take a minute to. I think maybe I will talk a little bit about my journey until TikTok. I started as Discover, and I was an advertiser, like buying Google ads, and it's very clear at the end of it, like Facebook come by, represented this opportunity, and they're like, we open up our inventory, and that's probably more than Google's inventory combined. So like at that point, I was like, okay, that's going to be a next big thing or like a next big change. And I tried to make my way to Meta, where you kind of from advertiser side to the kind of platform side and figure out how ad systems work. So that, and at Meta, I was actually in the same department for 7 years. What I enjoyed there was it's a high growing company at that stage, joined at 2013. So even you're not seeking opportunities, there are opportunities thrown at you. So every 1 or 2 years, they will ask you to take an entirely different direction. And that's what I really enjoyed. And then I kind of missed that at the end of Meta, where things are significantly slowing down, lots of more, I would say, hierarchies, which makes things much harder to move. And then like moving to TikTok, where is kind of seeking for that dynamic environment, things moving super fast, and you know they are looking for people to taking on different challenges. That's why I joined TikTok. And TikTok, what kind of excites me as I moved from like the marketing growth side to the product side, the idea is just I wanted to see like get closer to the most critical part, and for ads, that's really the product side. And what I enjoy that experience is things moving so much faster, like you got opportunity working on how AI changes as the industry, how automation changes the industry. So if I just summarize that, I think I've always trying to find a company and a segment that's growing, because I know there you are just going to get opportunity to grow and try different things. And two, I tried to move from an advertiser to the platform and to like where the core of the business is. And for ads, that's more of the product side that provides scales to millions of SMBs.
I think in my explorations of my career early on, firstly, I mentioned earlier that growth in my jobs have been figuring out how to grow things. And I think since my time in college, I've always tried to figure out how to grow myself. So when I was a student here at UC Berkeley, I had anywhere between 5 to 6 part-time jobs going at one time. And that was just this endless pursuit to chase new knowledge, new skills, new challenges, and grow myself ultimately. And I think when I looked at jobs after school, that's really the core value that I continued to chase. And I ended up joining Pinterest at the time, which was an early startup when there were 30 individuals in that company. So being an early employee there meant that I could stretch myself, wear many hats, do a number of things. And ultimately the skill set I developed was becoming somewhat of a Swiss Army knife, basically a jack of all trades, but a master of none in some ways. But I really loved that because it continued to help me understand the boundaries of things I didn't know. And that gave me more conviction that I could help stitch together for companies all of these different areas and functions, whether it was sales, whether it was marketing, whether it was product, et cetera, and figure out a cohesive growth strategy and set of tactics. So for me, that's how I ended up chasing this career of growth and growth marketing.
Very cool. And I'm wondering, which of you are hiring, or your respective companies? Are they hiring or are they not hiring? Can I get a raise of hands? They're both hiring. Okay, let's look around the room now. Who's looking for a job? Raise your hands. Okay, quite a few of us. Good to know. What are you looking for when you're hiring someone onto your team? What makes a candidate stand out?
I can kick off here. So I work at Descript, and Descript is a 150-person Series B startup. So we're a little bit smaller than TikTok, I would say. We're a lot smaller. For us right now, or me building out the growth team in particular, we're looking for someone that is that generalist, the general athlete who we can throw problems at and meaningfully come up with solutions. So if that's something that excites you, I think that would be a really great fit for us.
The three things we are looking for is, I think everyone looking for that, but the number one will be the willingness to try, the willingness to expose to different culture, solve hard problem. The second part would be capability. The fundamental of it is ability to think deeply and to collaborate. And the third thing is potential to grow, and we are a growing company. We constantly looking for people who wanted to move up to leadership roles. And I will say we are hiring pretty aggressively, but in very different ways. If you ask me 3 years ago, our headcount in a given year, 3x, like from 20 people to 60 people, right? And every month you want to hire more than 10 folks. That's the growth we are having. This year, we have a different mindset, right? Like we're still hiring pretty quickly, like maybe 20% of headcount on top of what we have right now, but extremely hiring right is way more important than than anything else. We'd rather not fulfill the headcount, but wanted to candidate who are able to show strong willingness, capability as well as potentials.
Thank you. And I see a number of hands up, so I'm going to accelerate. I have maybe 2 more questions, and we'll get to the questions from all of you. One question I have is, both of you work in the creator economy. And when I think of the creator economy, I think of, well, people who've upended all the things that we know and that we've assumed to be true. Things like stay in school, put your head down, get a good job, climb up the corporate ladder, and pay your dues, whether it's educationally or professionally. Meanwhile, we're looking out there into the creator economy, and we're seeing people a fraction of our age sticking a microphone in front of someone on the street and going viral and making tens of thousands, maybe millions of dollars on this content. So when I think about the career decisions that all of us are now making, bring us back to, if you could return to Northwestern or to Berkeley, and you're a college student right now, how would you spend your time knowing where the world is going now? Or if you're just starting your careers now, what are the things that you would focus on to keep yourself relevant in this new economy?
Sure, I think, first of all, what you said is so true. I talk to businesses a lot, like creator economy or businesses who get to TikTok, figured out the secret sauce, and are able to sell millions or tens of millions of merchants. I think there are lots of opportunities out there. So I think if I were able to choose, then I feel like right now, I think things are a little bit shifting, right? Like with the emerge of live content platform like TikTok, where honestly, if you are professional creative makers or you spend $50,000 on a video and put it on TikTok, they may not have the same effect as you self-shooting 10 seconds of videos. So I will just tell you a story that we heard from one business. This lady literally was put her phone up and literally just shoot the package of a cosmetic product. Didn't even open it, and the setting is they are inventory hub, right? Or shelf of product. Didn't show the product, didn't show her face. I think that's where is her starting point. I think that particular video somehow got 10 millions of views and kicked off his kind of business and journey at TikTok. So I think that's one thing that's really kind of shifting what is good content made, how products are being sold today. And the second is definitely the power of AI, how that adds into the creative client services, sales, ads. So probably I felt like those are the two areas. If I can go back, would really think deeply on how that can change the different ways of business and see what opportunity can be found there.
At Descript, one of our company missions and one of our visions about the future that we're building for is that everyone is and can become a creator. So if I were to actually embrace that vision and think of how I would change what I do and be in your shoes today, one thing I would relentlessly try is to experiment and build things, even if it's not my formal title or role to do so. And the reason I say that is because if you think about it, what is content creation at its core? It's creating new writing, new text, new videos, new images. And you can be a creator if you're writing emails, if you're recording videos of yourself, if you're filming documentation, or if you're doing more of the traditionally known storytelling through channels like TikTok, Snapchat, Instagram, etc. So there's a lot of ways to define what creation is, and I think it's easier really now than ever to get started on creation with almost $0 in cost. And there's so many tools at our disposal. You can get a branded content channel up and running for what I would wager to be no money spent except for your time, your dedication, and your focus. And I think these experiments are worth running because content is meaningful only if it has a purpose, and that content can be used to promote yourself as a brand, to build a business, to sell some other types of products or services, but it's really easy to experiment, and I would do more of that, and that's something that we want to inspire at Descript too, which is we're building an audio and video editing tool so that you can make content easier and faster.
It's a good seg over to my last question, which is, here I am asking about what would you have done if you were in college now or just starting your careers now? We have folks from all around California, the country, some traveling in from around the world to be with us here today, and folks from all different paths with respect to their careers, some maybe a little bit further along in their careers than others. As you look out into the world today, in the creator economy or elsewhere, what do you feel like is the biggest missed opportunity, or an opportunity that you feel like more of us should be taking advantage of, but for some reason, folks haven't been raising their hands yet to do it?
I can start. I don't know if anyone haven't noticed it, but I will just say the equivalent of TikTok in China market operates very different than how it's today. So if you think about it, the TikTok's power is the traffic. They have 1 billion users and lots of impressions served to the users. So in the other markets, even like some of our Asian market, we believe it's important to understand how well you can monetize your videos. And typically like photo is least telling, meaning like low production, but it's just a photo. And video should be way more effective at converting those traffic or monetize those traffic. And the live should be even way more effective at monetize. So that's a trend, right? Like live first, video second, and photo third in terms of efficiencies. I think that's how it is for like a lot of other markets, but not in US. In US, I think most of the time it's photo, and the people find it way harder or way less willingness to do the latter. And I think there is a space there. I think even we went to some of Southeast Asian market, the market catch up so much quickly, right? Like people like operate around that hypothesis, right? Like how can I provide large quantity of creatives, either live or video, at a very cheap price. And somehow the industry at US, I think they didn't catch up the same speed as we see in other markets. And I feel like there is opportunity there to be found.
I think maybe building on my previous answer here, which is I think everyone should do more experimentation with content creation. one thing that I think is surprising is that there are a lot of really cool, exciting new tools at our fingertips. Many of them free to try, many of them lower cost to try. But you can basically create a video that's really polished, well scripted, has video, has audio, completely without ever standing in front of a camera. And these are the synthetic generative AI tools that allow you to clone your own voice, use a stock voice, completely generate a video on the basis of a script that you don't even have to write. It could be totally GPT generated. So I think there's just a lot to try there. And I've been surprised that probably, out of 10 people I talked to, maybe 2 or 3 have tried this or even understand the power of these tools and technologies, and everyone else is watching what others are doing or wondering what's possible or wondering whether or not their jobs are, at risk in the future. And I think once you see the power of these tools, you most likely, and this is my perspective and I feel strongly about this, you'd feel like these are tools at your disposal and that you'll do your jobs 10x better as a result of having access to these. So I think kind of figuring out how these types of AI tools can augment your work and help you is something that is undervalued, and I wish more people would try.
Very cool. So you heard it here, folks. Use these tools and go live. You heard it here. I noticed there was a question from the audience. From over here, does anyone else have questions? We're gonna now move we'll go this way. Here you go. If you could please share your name and then your question.
Sure. Hi, my name is Vincent. Thank you guys so much for taking the time to speak with us today. This is sort of a hypothetical, so feel free to skip this question if it's a little off topic. But Sandy, seeing as you are a self-described jack of all trades, JY, you're at TikTok right now. I have a question for you guys. How would you guys grow BeReal? I'm sure you guys have heard of it. I think they had a great launch, and I think what they suffer from right now is they don't have enough growth and they don't have enough monetization. So as experts kind of in this field, how would you guys help them? BeReal, sorry. If you guys are.
Are you on BeReal by chance?
I'm not on BeReal.
You haven't gotten a notification to take a picture of the person sitting next to you?
No, I used to be on it, but now it's not that engaging. So I'm curious what you guys would say about growing something like that.
So you just gave away the answer there, and I'll start by saying I was on BeReal for 2 hot seconds, which was, I tried it because I heard other people were on it, and it was fascinating, and it piqued my curiosity, and I never went back. And my observation on it as a person in growth is that retention is the core of growth. If your business is not solving for retention as its core problem and mission at the very, very onset, then you're going to really struggle. So I think oftentimes when new products emerge, it's great and really important that you can find that sliver of how you can attract people's attention and get people excited. Of course, we all want to go viral. But if the growth machine itself is not focusing on retention at the end of the day, your business is basically going to be a faucet that's leaking into, a very, very large pipe of water out of the system. So I think for BeReal, I suspect, and the thing I would double down on is figuring out what are their features that are focused on retention, and why aren't users continuing to use the product?
Did we have a question somewhere around here? Or everyone's interested in BeReal? Everyone has the same question? Thank you. Your name and your question, please.
Hi, my name is Nikith. Thank you guys so much for taking the time to speak here today. Sandy, this question is more for you. I'm sure working in growth at a company of Meta's size is very different from working in growth at a company of Descript's size. So just wondering, what are some of the similarities and differences that you've noticed there?
Thank you.
Yeah, there's a lot of differences and perhaps similarities as well. But one thing I'll probably touch upon that Junyan actually alluded a bit to in her earlier presentation was the fact that probably with larger companies, they're more mature with their systems of growth. So there's a lot more opportunity to systematically talk about things like the funnel, right? She gave a very clear articulation of, I know precisely what I want the user to do, step after this, and then we can have a very precise measurement on it, and we'll know exactly the aspects of the funnel to target on, whether it's an activation problem or a monetization problem. You still have that at smaller companies, but you can have far more outliers that change the directory and give you step function increases in the graph so that maybe next week you look at the funnel and it's like, whoa, it's completely different. My assumptions on it have changed. I also think that at earlier stage companies, the set of channels that you use to get traction in new markets are really different than the set of channels that you rely on in larger companies. So for example, when I was working with Junyan at Meta, a lot of the channels that I oversaw were email-based, messaging existing users. At Descript, they're totally different. We have to focus on driving more upper funnel growth and net new users. Additionally, some of the tactics like going to offline conferences and recruiting customers there work well when your base of customers is small, but at Meta, Junyan, I imagine, is not sending her team to every conference out there and acquiring customers that way. So I think it's a matter of the scope of the problem and then how consistent and reliable that data is so that the growth ends up being more systematic.
We only have about 10 seconds left here. Both of you have interesting projects that you're currently working on. I'd love to hear, what are you currently working on and how can folks stay in touch with you?
Quickly on my end, I'm teaching a growth marketing course through Stanford Online and would love to meet folks who are interested in developing their skills there. So shoot me a note or get in touch. Would love to tell you more about the curriculum I'm developing and get way more feedback on that.
Sorry, what's the question again? What are you working on? Any last words of wisdom?
My biggest problem is job is already busy, so hiring, take care of my kids, and learn more about the future technology. I think we think automation and AI will a big thing for changing advertiser industry even further. So that would be a kind of interesting part for to understand more and understand how that foresee how that can change the advertising and make earlier investment there.
Great. Well, thank you so much for your sharp questions, everyone, and thank you for your thoughtful answers. Thanks.